your thoughts on how Democrats handled the shutdown, are handling the shutdown, considering the fact that many of you just said veterans, we tend to be problem solvers, we tend to work with folks on both sides of the aisle. What are your thoughts on how the shutdown is transpired?
So, I think I would be remiss to say that the way we handled the shutdown as a Democratic Party was a success, right? We shut down the government for a long period of time and we're not able to meet all of our goals by any standard in terms of making it clear that we're going to make healthcare more affordable for the average American who has ACA. However, we have to put that in the context of the fact that we're not necessarily working with folks who really are good faith partners. Good faith partners wouldn't make you have to shut down the government in order to make it clear that folks need health care in America. So if you're not working with good faith partners, and if you really care about the American people, you really want to make sure that their premiums don't double or triple, you do have to compromise and you do have to put yourself in a position where you're doing what's right for the people. I've heard folks say that, maybe we should just reopen the government and let Republicans reap what they sow. When people get those bills and they recognize that their health care is doubled or tripled, now all of a sudden they're going to hold the Republican Party accountable for that. And while that may be a good political strategy, what's happening to 20 million families across the United States of America if we do that? Democrats have to actually be what they say they're going to be, which is the party of the people, the party who cares about what happens to Americans. So in advocating for that, we have to come to a compromise. And if you're not compromising with folks who, once again, like I said, are not good faith partners, you're not always going to be able to get what you want. Part of compromise, however, is that you don't always get what you want, but neither does the other side. And the Democratic Party, by fighting and by shutting down the government, was able to make it clear exactly what the Republicans are trying to do. By highlighting the issue for weeks, we have put them in a much more difficult position when all of a sudden they want to turn their backs on the ACA and shut down healthcare premiums. If we hadn't shut down the government, and if we hadn't put up a fight, if we hadn't fanned the flames and shined a spotlight on the issue, it would have been that much easier for them to turn around and allow the healthcare premiums to explode and then try to blame it on Obamacare. Now the American people know that if that is to transpire, we're not to blame, they should not blame Obamacare. They should blame the Republican Party for not put a system in place to keep the American people safe.
Everyone here remembers Lucy holding the football and Charlie Brown coming and running after that. That's what I feel is what happened here. And let me get into why. First, someone asked me this question before this shutdown was set to end at an event last week. They said, what would I do if that were me? One thing I want to make sure we remain mindful of and respectful of and sensitive to is while we're doing all this fighting where we are talking about Democrats and Republicans in office, let's be mindful of those who can't afford, they don't have the luxury, they don't have the capacity to wait for us to get this all figured out. And I think one thing we could have done as Democrats is we should have done a better job with, expressing that to those who are in those positions, rather than saying, hey, we got it here, but not coming back to say, okay, you know what, maybe hold town halls, maybe have, and they may have done this, I haven't seen it, but communicate with those who are coming off the SNAP benefits, those who don't care, they can only focus on their own families. So to start with, put more attention to that. But my observation, and you may not agree with this, but my observation was that the Senate Democrats didn't wake up and say, you know what, this is going on long enough, let's just stop. I feel like, and I went to the Charlie Brown reference because I feel like this promise that's 50-50 whether it happens or not, that's what made the Democrats switch. And I feel a little bit uneasy about that because we're already hearing, well, at least I'm already starting to see excuses of how, first I believe, and this might have changed, but I believe Speaker Mike Johnson said he's not committed to extending this. And I figured that was coming because I was uneasy with what's happening, but I know we had to, get all the information and such. And then Representative Mike Lawler of New York, a Republican, he said the same thing. He said we may need, this needs to be a longer-term decision. So I feel like they're already starting to lay the seed of not honoring their promise. So as tough as it is, we have to, the main message there is, communicate to the people as to what's going to be affected. And if this is going to hurt you, let me explain why it's going to hurt you. Let me not stay over here, feel like I'm winning something, beating, Republicans, but never come back to you. But never come back to you and say, okay, this is why we have to go this way. Because at the same time, while you're suffering, if I'm never speaking to you, you're saying, okay, well, do you even care what my tomorrow is going to look like, what yesterday is going to look like? So that's where I was going.